everybody, and welcome to my review of Glass, the new film directed by M. Night Shyamalan and the third and concluding chapter in his superhero trilogy that started off with Unbreakable, then the middle part was of course Split, and now we have Glass. Now before I get into this, it's going to be really difficult to talk about this movie without giving some minor spoilers from the previous two films. So I'm going to assume that you have seen them, or if you're watching this, maybe you don't care about spoilers, I don't know, but you've been warned. There will be little spoilers. So this film sees the return of Bruce Willis as David Dunn, Samuel L. Jackson as Elijah, and James McAvoy as, well, a lot of people. In Unbreakable, which is a film that I loved so much. It was one of my most favorite superhero movies of all time, mainly because it wasn't like a comic book film, like it wasn't taken from a comic book. It was more of a kind of a real world superhero film. So in that film, Willis's character learns that he has invulnerability, super strength, all sorts of stuff. In the second film, Split, which at the time we weren't aware that it was actually a sequel to Unbreakable, we're introduced to James McAvoy's character, who's this guy named Kevin, but he's got like 24, I think, different personalities, one of them being the Beast, which is this almost like a supernatural kind of a primal animal human thing. But the end of that film set it up as a sequel to Unbreakable, so of course everyone was talking about it. Hey, you know, we're gonna get another one, and yeah, a couple of years later we now have Glass. So being that I love the first two movies so much, I was really looking forward to this film. I thought, yeah, like they've set up this universe so well, these great characters who I just couldn't wait to see, you know, what was gonna happen, like when they all come together and everything. And I gotta say, wow, I was really disappointed. I mean, seriously, as soon as the credits started rolling, I turned to my friend and I was angry. This is a movie that was so bad, it actually pissed me off. You may have noticed when I was describing the story of this film, I didn't really say a lot. It's because there wasn't much to say. Not much actually happens in this film. I was hoping for, like, you know, the meeting between David Dunn and Kevin, aka everyone. I thought it was going to be something really epic and grand scale. I thought we were going to have Elijah, aka Mr. Glass, orchestrating the whole thing, like this epic showdown of these two titans, but wow, we never really got that. So look, in terms of things I did like about the film, I mean, you know, it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, so it looks good. I mean, I guess it was well directed. The performances were good. This film also brings in Sarah Paulson as Dr. Ellie Staple, who is in this hospital, which you've seen in the trailers. Most of the movie is set in this hospital, but I'll get to that in a sec. Yeah, so she's the one who is sort of interviewing them and, you know, basically their doctor, I guess. The film also brings back Anya Taylor-Joy, who was Casey from Split, the girl who got away in the end. And we've also got Spencer Treat Clark as Joseph, David Dunn's son, who we saw in Unbreakable, and yeah, he was in this one, so it was kind of cool to see him back. And rounding out the returning characters, we've got Charlene Woodard as Elijah's mum. So we brought these three characters back, but there was just no real point to them being in the story. Like, I do get they served a little bit of a purpose, but realistically, they didn't need to be there. And in a movie that set up these amazing comic book sort of characters, just like I said, nothing happened. We're introduced at the start to the characters as a reminder of who they are, or I guess if you haven't seen the previous two, so you know who they are. Then we go to this hospital, and the reason why so many scenes in the trailers are set in this hospital is because most of the freaking movie is set in this hospital. Paulson's character was basically there to give us exposition. Like, I do know that her character did serve a higher purpose, but yeah, essentially she just kept telling the audience what was going on, and it was getting really irritating. And aside from that, the dialogue was so clunky. For example, early in the film, David Dunn has got this security store, and there's a customer in there who's played by M. Night Shyamalan. Of course, he does a cameo. Now, if you recall, in Unbreakable, he was in that film in a brief scene outside a sports stadium where he meets Dunn's character. So in this film, there's this moment where he's like, you know, they look at each other, and Shyamalan's like, you know, hey, don't I know you from somewhere and stuff, and he says something about, oh, you were that security guard 18 years ago or whatever, you know, I'm hanging out with a better crowd now. It's like, Really? I mean, if you had like a really minor encounter for a minute or so with a person, you know, that long ago, would you really remember them? Not only that, like, Elijah is this grand mastermind, you know, his like superpower is his intelligence, and yet, you know, in a movie like this, of course, you've got to suspend disbelief, but the way this guy just could access all the systems and redo things with the cameras and all the electrical works inside this hospital and everything, like, come on. There's only so much I can suspend that disbelief. But it just became ridiculous. There were so many things that happened in this film that were just way too convenient. The writing was really lazy. I also thought the musical score was a bit weird. I can't remember the composer's name. It was one I'd never heard of before, but I don't know, like every now and then there was sort of like these horror movie music cues in places where they shouldn't really be, like places where it's not really trying to build suspense, but there they were. And in terms of the big sort of twist or whatever, which I'm not going to spoil, you're totally safe here. Yeah, look, obviously there is a twist. It's an M. Night Shyamalan film. We come to expect that there's going to be a twist, but it wasn't so much of a twist as just a plot development. I mean, there was zero wow factor in the big reveal at the end of this film. Yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so that's what happened. And look, I do get that it's going to be easy enough for people to come along and say, you know, hey, maybe you were just expecting too much from this film, but I really wasn't. I mean, yeah, look, obviously I went in with expectations because we've got two brilliant films to lead up to it. So realistically, you know, you're going to go into this thinking to yourself, well, you know, if it's as good as the last two, then I'm going to be happy. But just before going in, like literally half an hour or so, I received word that the reviews weren't too favorable, and I did have a look through Twitter, and yeah, a lot of people were saying, this movie's pretty bad. So I did go in with a fairly open mind, but that being said, no, it's just a bad movie. And I really did try to like it. I really did sit there, you know, looking at these characters that I've loved from two previous films, thinking to myself, like, come on, surely there's got to be something good in all of this mess that's making you want to watch the rest of it, but there wasn't. So guys, look, in the end, I am probably never going to see this movie again. I wouldn't care to own it on Blu-ray. I don't care if I have the previous two. I'll just enjoy them. I do not ever want to see this movie again. It was boring. It was pointless. Nothing really happened. This big epic showdown that we were all sort of hoping to see wasn't there. It was just a minor scuffle in a parking lot. So that being said, I am really disappointed in saying this, but I'm going to give Glass a 2 out of 10. Alrighty, so over to you guys. I know I'm really early with this review, thanks to a press screening, so that was lucky, but yeah, look, if you've seen Glass, let me know what you thought of it, or yeah, by the time that you actually do get to see this movie, come back and let me know. And I'd actually really love to hear from some people who did enjoy this film, because, I mean, look, I get it, movies are a completely objective thing, you know, there are going to be people who love this movie, and that is totally okay. I really wish I was one of you. But yeah, I would love to talk to some people who actually did like this movie, just to, I don't know, maybe pick your brains as to what you actually liked about it. So go right ahead, drop me some comments either here or Facebook or Twitter. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies and I would love to talk about movies with you. Catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.